One word, choice. Our veterans are lacking choice when it comes to their health care and mental health care. And if we can provide that solution for them, it's just going to open up so many more opportunities for them to get seen in a proper, timely fashion versus having to wait for the VA. Don't get me wrong, the VA does work for some people, but overall, giving choice, just like the rest of us Americans have, our veterans deserve that as well.
And so the Veterans Access Act, you're saying would just allow people, if they can't go to the VA, to the option to go see private medical providers?
In particular, let's say the VA doesn't offer that particular specialty in that area, they're going to have to defer them out into the community. Or let's say it takes too long, or the veteran has to drive over an hour and a half, 2 hours away. The community care option would be phenomenal.
Americans are capable of achieving extraordinary things when they have the freedom and opportunity to do so. This is American Potential.
One of the things that really sets Concerned Veterans for America apart is how connected they are to the people they serve. They're not just working in communities across the country. Often they are those communities. Most of them have worn the uniform themselves or have a loved one who has. They understand the challenges vets face when they come home, from navigating the VA to finding a good job or building a new life. And that's why their Vets on the Hill event is so important. It's not just a meeting, it's a mission. They bring those real voices and real concerns straight to members of Congress, making sure lawmakers hear directly from the people who've served. Because no one who's fought for the American dream should have to fight again just to live it. Today we're talking with Alexa Rice, who is a digital engagement director for CVA, and Jimmie Smith, who is CVA's brand development director, about this event. Alexa, welcome. Jimmie, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so glad you guys could join us. And I want to thank you for the service that you provided, and then what you're doing now to really give veterans a voice. So let's just start out. Alexa, let's start with you. How did you hear about CVA, and then how did you end up actually working for them?
Well, my husband has actually volunteered on and off and has been in some way part of CVA from its conception way back when. And it was probably about a year ago, I had the local GED here at the time, Jessica Villarreal, who had reached out to me and said, hey, you know what? I've been doing advocacy work for quite some time, but more on the educational side. And she's like, I could really use some help here. And I'm like, yeah, just show me what to do and I'll do it. And I just been running and hitting the ground ever since. I mean, it just made sense to come in and be a part of CVA.
Nice. So your husband's involvement was your initial spark to kind of get more and more involved and eventually, land a job.
Absolutely. I mean, when you see the struggles that veterans have making that transition from being in the military to being a civilian, it doesn't make things easy. And, you do your best that you can to support them. But if you can support them in a bigger macro level and help more than just, your spouse or your loved one, I'm for that. And there needs to be more people to stand up for that as well.
Yeah. So, Jimmie, how did you hear about CVA and come to start working for CVA?
Well, I was actually involved in the world of politics. And as part of that, Concerned Veterans for America came to my office and engaged me on issues at the state level that veterans thought were important. And we built a great relationship. I grew to understand who they were. And then one day I get a message, you should apply for this job. And fundamentally, the job was first a coalition director where I built relationships across the state of Florida and then subsequently the region, Southeast region, and then the United States. And now I'm the brand development director where I help bring CVA into other states. So it was one of those happenstance where they came to me for political reasons. And then subsequently they thought, hey, this guy's an influencer in politics and he's a veteran. Let's get him involved.
And Jimmie, which branch of service did you serve in?
I served in the United States Army Infantry.
Yeah, I'm always so thrilled when I get to spend some time with our folks with Concerned Veterans for America because And unfortunately, we've talked to a lot of your colleagues on the show too. There's just a real richness in like the stories and the motivations for the work that we do. I mean, I work to advance better policy for Americans, and I think it's noble work. I think it's so important to help people overcome their obstacles and pursue their American dream. But you guys are doing it with I don't know, maybe a little more richness, I would say, and certainly a lot more skin in the game in terms of what you've sacrificed to try to pursue a lot of these policy changes. So I give you a lot of credit, and it's just been a joy for me to have you and your colleagues on the show. So Alexa, you guys have Vets on the Hill coming up. Vets on Capitol Hill, and this is your first time going to Vets on the Hill. So what are you looking forward to?
I am actually so excited to see our work. I mean, this is kind of like the pivotal point that we've been working for, and taking personal stories from home and sharing them with legislators so they understand where we're coming from. It's just not we're coming out of left field and requiring X, Y, and Z from them. These are their people. We are representing their people. And sometimes, whether it's the veteran community or Americans as a whole, they're underrepresented. And sometimes, advocates like us here at CVA, this is where we can be that outlet. We can communicate and we can give that information to legislators to make those differences for them.
That's great. Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing, go and connect with our lawmakers in Washington and tell them powerful stories. I've worked for a few members of Congress in my long ago, and you can't underestimate how powerful some of those stories can be and the effect they can have on our lawmakers. A lot of them are very open and just want to put a face and a name with a story that then leads to their action on policy. So I think it's so powerful. So Jimmie, you've been to previous Vets on the Hill event. What have you talked to lawmakers about at past events?
Well, having gone previously, one of the things that we focused on was veterans healthcare. And that was absolutely one of those things where we took the stories of veterans and we offered them to show where it's important to deal with giving veterans options and choices. But we also, veterans have this unique aspect of we want to provide an answer to the issue. When we're in the military, we're always looking for problem solving. What are you going to do on this? How are you going to fix that? So with Concerned Veterans for America, there was specific legislation we were able to present as an answer to the issues. And quite often, Congress is, more often than not, used to people coming and making an ask, not making an offer. And between the stories and making the offer of answers, it really does elevate us.
The veteran voice is just very powerful for good reason. There's just a lot that's gone into earning that voice. And I think it can be very powerful with lawmakers for sure. So one of the things that you'll be talking to lawmakers about is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So Jimmie, how will keeping the tax cuts help veterans?
Well, so one of the things is the Small Business Administration tracks on average how many veterans are involved in business or managing, running, owning. And using that information, we can show that there's about 5% of all small businesses across the nation are either veteran-owned or veteran-run, compared to the fact that there's less than 2% of the nation that actually serves in the military. This shows it's a higher demographic of people who are serving, come home and are hungry to continue to serve, but also to come home and build their own wealth, their own prosperity, create their own American dream.
Yeah, that's interesting. So there's a higher incidence of entrepreneurship, basically, and starting small businesses amongst the veteran community than the average, which makes sense. I think that's pretty cool, though. Yeah. So so those tax cuts, I mean, I guess we think just like anybody else who's starting small businesses, those tax cuts have really benefited people over the course of, since 2017. Obviously, not passing the tax cuts will result in the biggest tax hike that we've ever seen in American history. So I guess veterans and other small business owners alike really will benefit from the economic upside of maintaining those tax cuts.
Yeah, absolutely. We've done a lot of work with veterans in the business community and have a lot of relationships. And I can tell you, first, they start with their own savings to invest. And that's where things like the 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act allowed for veterans to have more of their personal money to be able to make those investments.
So something else is that you guys have talked about is the Veterans Access Act. Alexa, what does this do for veterans when it comes to their health care?
one word, choice. Our veterans are lacking choice when it comes to their health care and mental health care. And if we can provide that solution for them, it's just going to open up so many more opportunities for them to get seen in a proper, timely fashion versus having to wait for the VA. Don't get me wrong, the VA does work for some people, but overall, giving choice, just like the rest of us Americans have, our veterans deserve that as well.
And so the Veterans Access Act, you're saying would just allow people, if they can't go to the VA, to the option to go see private medical providers?
They can go out into the community and get the care that they're looking for. And in particular, let's say the VA doesn't offer that particular specialty in that area, they're going to have to defer them out into the community. Or let's say it takes too long, or the veteran has to drive over an hour and a half, 2 hours away. The community care option would be phenomenal.
What do you guys, it seems like a no-brainer to me, doesn't it? I mean, I think all of us would probably agree that we should ensure that the folks who serve this nation get the best care they can get. And if that's in a VA hospital or with another medical provider, especially if it's 2 hours away or something, it seems like a no-brainer. But I know this has been an issue that that CVA has had to fight on for a decade. Why do you think that is? I mean, who's opposed to veterans making healthcare decisions to get the best healthcare they can?
That's never made sense to me. I cannot answer that because veterans are near and dear to my heart, clearly. And they've given so much to our country, the freedoms for us to be doing the things that we do day in and day out. This just makes sense to me. Why wouldn't we want to take care of those that have taken care of us by giving us our freedoms? It's beyond words for me.
Yeah, I think it's one of the frustrating things that we see in politics is entrenched interests, protecting their entrenched interests. And in this case, maybe it's the VA protecting its little space, or other folks who don't want more choice in healthcare options writ large, even outside the VA for all of us. I think there's a desire to control sometimes, and unfortunately, the veterans are kind of getting caught in that, from my observation.
No, that's very true. Very true.
David, I think one of the things that the VA, it's the bureaucrats who are afraid that if somebody goes out into the community, they might like it better. It's definitely the fact that the VA is afraid of competition. And also, we know quite often that when you have bureaucrats in the government, like the VA, running healthcare, we see how they have bad outcomes. And they're probably afraid that the more veterans go out into the community and see better outcomes, the more that will shine light of how the VA is not running as well as it should.
I know it's been a long struggle, and it's always perplexed me. Like, it just seems like there's right and wrong here to some degree. And I don't like to say that about many public policy issues, but this one seems like a no-brainer. So, Jimmie, what else, when you guys are up on the Hill talking to legislators, what else are you going to be talking to them about?
Well, one of the other things we'll be talking about is our national defense/foreign policy. Right now we want to make sure that our allies are working in a form that's mutual benefit. So calling on Europe to increase their spending on defense spending, important. We also want to make sure our foreign policy is what's best for America. So when you look at the Middle East, there's the effort of us to pull out of Syria and to pull out of Iraq because we don't need to be there anymore. The mission is basically completed, and there's no direct correlation to the benefit of America's foreign policy for us to be there, as well as for the fact that we can reposition in a way that allows us to be influential in those regions without having to put ourselves in potential harm's way and creating a new foreign regional conflict. Not only that, last but not least on that issue, we have to start focusing on the Asia and Pacific area as the influence of China starts to increase.
So, Jimmie, your time serving in the Army, I mean, how has that informed your view on our proper role as it comes to foreign policy?
Well, it's been very unique. I started off with the very ambitious, let's go, do everything we can and show America's strength, to seeing signs that said, Yankee go home in foreign countries, and given notes from people I worked with in foreign countries that were like, hey, thanks, get out of my country. And I started to come to realization that it wasn't America leaving their country. It was just simply the military. They really were just tired of having U.S. military presence. They never said, hey, send your businesses home or send your doctors home. And that's really what being on the ground in the military started to shape my mindset about the overuse in the military in foreign policy.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be also one of the most expensive ways for us to project influence around the world because, I mean, the military is really expensive. And it also, not only financially, and that's a huge deal I know that CVA deals with and addresses, but even, in terms of lives. I mean, there's a lot of consequences to us having a military deployed all over the world.
The Middle East has cost us over $2 trillion and over 7,000 lives. And yet still today, I don't think anybody in the Middle East actually likes us any better.
When you talk to lawmakers about this issue, foreign policy and the role of the military around the world, what are some reactions that you get?
Well, a lot of people will often think that we have to have our military over in these countries to keep us safer. We can reposition our military in the regions without putting them boots on the ground and still have the ability to have the influence. People say, well, we don't want to be isolationist. Not having troops on the actual ground, which is where the major detriment is not isolationism. So those are the two things that we need to really convince some of these legislatures. Now, others, especially those who have served, are in complete agreement. Absolutely scale back our presence, make it more realistic, use the mindset of the past where during the Cold War, we didn't have to have our troops in everybody's country, but we were still an effective foreign policy nation. So a lot of them do get that. But yes, it is quite often the false image of isolationism or the false image of having to have America boots on the ground.
When you talk to other veterans, whether it's CVA or outside of it, why are these issues important to them?
Well, when you talk to veterans, they can see that it's a pathway. So broken foreign policy means the use of the military, which means the potential harm to servicemen and women who have to come home and then go through a broken VA healthcare system and then struggle as part of whatever problem they had in the military service. So as an example, the January 24th Tower 22 incident wounded, I think, over 30-something people and killed either 4 or 5 individuals. One of those is my friend. He is permanently damaged and will always be less than capable of what he was before he went. And the thing he said to me in conversation was, Jimmie, I don't even know why we're there.
Yeah, that's sad. That's really disappointing. I think it is up to our country's leaders to make sure the people serving the nation and putting their lives on the line feel good about the reason they're doing it. Well, so just to sum up, so Vets on the Hill, you guys are going up to Capitol Hill to lobby lawmakers. I'm trying to remember how long Concerned Veterans for America has been doing Vets on the Hill. Do either of you know?
I think it's somewhere around 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, and we always get such a great reaction from lawmakers. They, we have, whether it be state directors from AFP, Libre strategic directors, or staff from CVA go up at different times to, talk to our lawmakers about our policy priorities. Vets on the Hill is probably always the best received. People love meeting people who serve this country and are passionate about, the policy priorities that they're advocating for. So the main things are we want TCJA to pass so that there's tax cuts and economic growth for everyone, especially the veterans who are starting small businesses. We want the Veterans Access Act, and then we want America to have to right size its military presence around the world. Any other priorities that I missed?
I think you hit them all on the head there. I think you got them all.
Well, one of the things I love about CVA is just watching like the brotherhood, just the fraternity that it is of folks, men and women. I say brotherhood, but men and women certainly on the team who've served or have family members who've served. There's just such a bond amongst the staff that I sometimes am kind of envious of. Like I love my AFP colleagues and I feel very close to them, in fact. But the CVA team is particularly close and connected, and I'm so excited to watch you guys go up to the Hill and do your work.
Thank you.
Well, so if someone wants to potentially be part of that community, and anybody's listening to this podcast and wants to get involved with CVA, where can they go to get more information and get involved?
they can definitely go and check out our new website. You can go to cv4a.org and they can hit the Take Action button and they can definitely get involved that way. They could also see if they have any GEDs in their state and they can get involved locally as well.
Yep. And a GED is a grassroots engagement director. So those are our folks who are doing organizing on the ground, helping folks to kind of take action and elevate their voice, which I think is the main goal of our organization. So, well, hey, Jimmie, Alexa, I'm so happy that you guys are going to be participating in Vets on the Hill. I hope it's a wonderful experience and super impactful. And I just want to thank you for coming on and talking to us about CVA and the event coming up.
Thank you so much.
If you like this episode and would like to stay connected with the podcast, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, as well as following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And always remember, liberty and freedom are easily taken for granted. Don't take it for granted. Go out there and defend freedom and liberty. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to American Potential. You may listen to more stories from Americans working every day to expand freedom and opportunity in their communities by visiting AmericanPotential.com.